Bud, you've told me I can call you Bud, so I don't feel like I'm being disrespectful. But Bud, you've allowed us to showcase your photos at the Botanical Garden here in Port St. Lucie. And it's really interesting to me, especially because it's coming from the view of a cattle rancher. And we wanted to talk about that today with you, and then kind of talk about your family as well, and give us some insight as to what's going on up in Fort Pierce. It's right, it's right around the corner from here. But what I love about it is that you and I were talking before the camera started rolling. You've been here so long, you've seen the difference in Port St. Lucie as well over the last 20 years.
Well, we knew this land as the Peacock Ranch, the McCarty Ranch, the Carlton Ranch, the Little King Slough. It was all cattle ranches when I knew it at first. And you're to be congratulated on building it into a modern, high-class city. And you deserve a lot of credit.
Oh, thank you for that. It's very nice. When you think back about the ranches that were here, I'm guessing you were friends or friendly with those ranchers as well.
Yes, the cattle community owned most of the land, and they worked together because they had a common interest of trying to make a living selling cattle.
So when you were out at the ranch, like, what made you decide that you wanted to capture that view that you have of, say, the birds and the animals that are so important to you?
Well, my father took me out there as a small boy hunting, and I liked that. And my father was a lawyer, and I did not quite comprehend as a 10-year-old how a lawyer really created something and made a living. I could comprehend at the age of 10 that these cows had calves, you could sell them, you could make a living doing that.
Yeah.
And so I have always wanted to do that. And outside of term in the Navy in World War II, I have pretty much done that. And I'm thankful for it.
The ranch seems to inspire a lot of creativity. You have in your family artists, musicians, and the artwork that you produce through the photographs and your books, that shows really a lot of creativity that gets generated from being out there. Do you attribute the environment to that?
I was given a 35mm camera when I was 12 years old, and it has been a means of recording what our cattle looked like back in the 1930s, what the land looked like, and of course one of our main efforts is to preserve the character of the land, the trees, the grass, and everything, because it is so important to you here in Port St. Lucie. We have 50 times more automobiles than we had a few years ago, all of them putting out carbon. But our air is still fresh and good. Where is the carbon going? It's going into the grass and the trees. In the grass, it's stored in the soil, and it's improving the soil, and that's important. The cattle mow the grass down, and the deer browse the trees, so we have no wildfire threat. We have no utilities that cross our land. There are no public roads, no public canals, no telephone wires or anything public intrusion on this land. So this land will be preserved as long as it is feasible.
All right, let's talk a little bit about like your book and what you've been doing from the photography standpoint, if you don't mind. Can I ask you about that?
Sure.
All right, so this is just one example of some of the photos that you've been able to, really bring to us. So I love, like, with the early years, one of the comments you made before was that you used to take pictures of the cattle in the 1930s and then now. How have the cattle changed over the years?
Okay, you see this picture?
Yes.
These were the native Spanish cattle that the Spaniards left here 500 years ago. That's what we started with. These cows were weighing 500 pounds. Their calves about 200 pounds. Today, our cows weigh 1,200 pounds, their calves weigh 600 pounds, and they're high-quality beef.
Wow.
So we have changed the cattle breeding tremendously, and their nutrition better through improved grasses. You see the picture of the Seminoles here. All of our neighbors back in those days were Seminoles. I married the best-looking girl at FSU because there were only 40 girls at the University of Florida at that time. And I said, do you want to live in town or you want to live on the ranch? She said, oh, I want to live on the ranch. I said, you'll be the first white woman to live that far out. There's nothing but Indians out there.
All right, so my personal favorite are birds of prey. Tell me your view on here, because I love that this page shows them.
These are essential part of our ecosystem. These hawks and owls, they pick up the rats and snakes and rodents, and so we're not overrun with pests. And then at the top of the food chain is the eagle.
Well, let me tell you, I've met people who tell me the only birds that they've noticed in their lifetime are really pigeons, because they're coming from very urbanized areas. Mm-hmm. And when they come here and they move to Port St. Lucie, they feel as though we have an enormous amount of birds in our area, and I know we do. But I love to see these pictures, these photos of the birds on your ranch, because from my perspective, it's not just a beautiful bird, but it is a utilitarian bird, as you mentioned. They have a job to do, and in your ecosystem, in our ecosystem, they are a very important part.
Well, these birds are so tenacious in some of their habits that I go to the Longhorn Steakhouse, I see these sandhill cranes.
I love
them. They were here when it was a cattle ranch. They built all this stuff. The cranes are still here, same crane family. And it's amazing how they adapt to different conditions. Mm-hmm. Some do and some don't.
Now, Robbie, my understanding is that we also have aerial photographs that you are in charge of, I'll say. How's that?
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, my dad got me started on that. He wanted me to get a drone, and so I studied it for a while, and they were in the beginning stages, and then finally I got one, and we started taking aerial photography of landscape and cattle and cowboys. And
all right, let's look at this now. Also in these photos, you give us a view of what it's like with these reptiles. So
well, you want to know what a dinosaur looked like?
Yeah.
That's pretty close. They're a relic of a bygone era.
Yes.
And all of these different species developed over different ages.
So what kind of turtle is that?
That, we call it a snapping turtle.
that is an alligator snapping turtle.
Alligator snapping turtle. But you see his long claws and beak.
Yes.
You never see this, but he's in there, and he eats the fish and the ducks and things that he can catch.
So guys, you recently came to our botanical gardens here in Port St. Lucie. So tell me what you think about it, because it's kind of new to us still. What do you think?
It's beautiful. I was one of the founders of Heathcote, so I have an interest in botanical gardens. But you have a gorgeous garden here and a tremendous facility. The main thing is you have people here to get involved with it.
That's been our hope. We started with the vision from Councilman Cooper. It was initially his idea to get there, and then the Friends of the Botanical Gardens do exactly what you're saying. They go in, they maintain, they take care, and they've helped us to grow, from the inside out, the botanical gardens.
Can't beat free labor.
No, you can't. You really can't. And now we're building on it with the new foundation, to really try and bring the art and culture to the garden, so that it's one place that everybody can go for some respite, to enjoy, because we all have a ranch to go to and enjoy it.
I hope the photos bring you some money.
Oh, I hope so too. As a matter of fact, that's a good segue. I want to thank you, and we're going to talk more about that, at a separate time. But you have been kind enough to say that if any of these photos sell that are on display there, that the entire proceeds can go to the foundation, to the Art Foundation, where we are trying to enhance the art and cultural opportunities there at the garden. So thank you so much for that. Truly, truly, the whole family.